Whew. Now that I got sweat broken, I don't want to stay in here too long because I might run the risk of dehydration. So let's get out. Back when I was living in DC, this is Ramadan, probably 2014. I was full-fledged, actually not 2014, 2013. Ramadan 2013, I was full-fledged into my fitness journey. This is when I had lost like over 40 pounds because I had put on a lot of weight at the time. And so now one of the complications I faced in that journey along the way, I didn't understand how detrimental dehydration can be to your own health and wellness and progress in areas. So this must have been maybe 2 weeks into Ramadan in 2013, and part of I got home from work, had iftar, and then after having iftar, I went straight to the gym. And so I'm working out, and part of the workout was doing pull-ups. But the thing is, I started doing pull-ups. I'm doing the pull-ups, and then all of a sudden I cramp up and I go like this, and I just couldn't, like, I was just like, I couldn't move. And part of it was it was so uncomfortable that I had to lay down on the floor. And this is the first time ever in my life I had actually reached over for a foam roller. And so I started rolling myself out, and it didn't really help. And at that point, I just started making my way slowly over to the car, just kind of like walking like this. I go to work in the same way, and it's just like I didn't know what to do. So that evening, it's kind of windy out here. Sorry about that. Well, I'm not sorry. It feels great. So that evening, that day when I went to work, I made an appointment with a sports therapist. And I went in there, again, middle of Ramadan. And I go in, and he's like, look, we'll take a look at you, right? So guy puts me on the table and really starts working his way in. And after he finished massaging me out, he was like, look, you got like these 3 or 4 knots. And it's like, either you're not drinking enough water or something's wrong. I'm like, I'm fasting. He's like, that's probably it. You've cramped up. And so one of the things that he said is like, look, you can keep coming back here. It's gonna cost you $125 each visit. Or you can start massaging it out yourself. And that's when I got introduced to the idea of leveraging and using a lacrosse ball or a squash ball, but any kind of ball. And in fact, there's a story of an old sports coach who, as a means of helping his athletes recover, what he did was he actually rolled out all the balls that they had I think they're like tennis balls and baseballs, whatever. And he told his athletes just go roll on them. And they did, and in fact, their sports performance had improved. And so, for me, it was learning that, hey, you know what? I should always have a ball with me, especially when it comes to massaging out certain areas that tend to get cramped up. Everybody's a little bit different. Some people might cramp up in their legs. I cramp up in my back. And so when I realized this back in 2013, I started to always maintain and always have a lacrosse ball or a squash ball or both with me all the time. You also want to ensure that you're not so sedentary that you're losing your range of motion. You're losing your ability to move your arms, all the way up to the side, back. Same thing with your ability to move your hips in terms of being able to get down and squat, being able to move and have all of that. Because we sit at so many right angles, we tend to getting stiff and whatnot. That last exercise that you see me doing, where I'm literally throwing my legs back over my head, that's a neck mobility and flexibility exercise. It's a stretch. And so I remember we used to do that in karate class, especially on submission grappling days. And I realized this week how much of that range of motion I had lost. And so that's why I figured I'd start doing it now. And one of the things is that, the amount of core effort that it takes to do Jiu-Jitsu and just martial arts in general, it's, one of the guys was saying that I was sparring with, is like, yeah man, Jiu-Jitsu is gonna give you abs of steel. And so, and a part of it is just like, there are general strength standards. And I know I haven't even met those strength standards yet that I was talking about before. And if this is the first time listening or watching, then those basic strength standards are knowing that you should be able to lift double your body weight using your legs. You should be able to lift your entire body weight using your upper body and shoulders, whether that's a pushing or pulling motion. So you should be able to do a pull-up, you should be able to scale a wall, you should be able to do a push-up, you should be able to push your body weight on a barbell. Like, these are basic strength standards. When it comes to your double the body weight, you can either deadlift 2.5 times your body weight, squat double your body weight or close to it, or at least your lean body mass. And if not lifting raw strength, then be able to get up and down on one leg in the various movements that exist, which might be from a seated position, pistol squat, shrimp squat, Bulgarian split squat, whatever it is, right? But to be able to have that ability to get up and down off the ground on one leg. But also among that is that's strength of movement, but then there's strength of stability, and that's the core strength. And that's the ability to be able to control that movement. And among those other core standards are, can you do a lever? And that's basically where you hang off the bar and then push your body to be parallel to the ground. So if the ground is flat, then you can make yourself horizontal. I can't do that yet. It'd be awesome too. In fact, one of the things that I think would be great is to just literally walk up to a signpost on the street and turn myself into a human flag. Like, that would be freaking awesome. So, and I didn't realize how much my core development had been neglected until I started taking martial arts again, getting back into, I mean, it's only been a week and I'm realizing I'm still sore. Like, I'm still sore all right here. And that's simply from the warm-ups. Like, we haven't even done any real training exercises. And just from the warm-ups, I'm just like really still sore. And that's why I'm making today a recovery day. I'm considering making tomorrow a recovery day as well. But we'll see. And so, and then get back into the gym or get back into training either on Sunday. If not Sunday, then most certainly Monday. So, I know there's gonna be an open mat either on Saturday or Sunday. If there is open mat, I wanna do some drills on the bags. It's been a while since I did some striking. Last time I did it was at 24 down in Westheimer, and they always have one kicking bag, one heavy bag, and it's almost always occupied. So that's always a bummer. But the fact that this Jiu-Jitsu school also has a Muay Thai thing, and they're gonna have open mats, I think that's gonna be awesome. So that's something to get back into. I'll probably vlog that, showcase some of the things that everybody should be able to know. But one of the last point I want to leave off with is how one of the things that if you're looking to use martial arts as a means of getting fit, then you will be sorely disappointed. And the reason I say that you'll be sorely disappointed is because martial arts, and especially the art of Jiu-Jitsu, one of the mottos of Judo and Jiu-Jitsu is minimal effort, maximum effectiveness. And so if you think about that, minimal effort, meaning the idea is to not get strong, the idea is to get efficient. And so once you develop efficiency, it's like somebody saying, hey, you know what, I'm gonna start biking to work just so I can get fit, which might be the case. You might get to a level of cardiovascular endurance and build a particular capacity up until a certain point, which might be 2 weeks, might be 3 weeks, maybe 4. But after that, your body's gonna be used to it. Your body has built efficiencies. It's the same thing with diets. People get into diets and then they hit plateaus. And the reason for that plateau is because, you know, your body is adapting. And so whenever you join up with martial arts, and the guy that was training me yesterday, that the professor had partnered me up with, he said, look, yeah, your abs are sore now, and you're gassed, and you're breathing heavy, and all of that. That's typical. You'll get used to it in like a couple weeks. If not, if you're really slow at it, in about a month. But you'll get used to it, and then you will not be out of breath. And I remember when I was training regularly, this is back with late high school, I remember we had a new student who signed up. This was a guy probably in his late 30s, while here we are, not even in our 20s. And this guy, he was just like flustered as to the fact that we were going like 4 or 5 rounds, and we still hadn't broken a sweat in terms of sparring. And Sensei tells that guy, like, look, don't compare yourself to these guys. These guys could probably go all day and be fine. And this guy, after 1 round, was just like out of breath and gassed. So, but you know, me not having been in practice for almost a decade, the most I've been practicing is just maintaining, you know, striking practice in terms of hitting the bag and whatnot, but not really sparring, not really rolling unless I had the opportunity to with a friend or two, in which case I would still be able to hold my own. But I'm holding my own against people who are blue belts or lower, essentially. But the thing is, it's your responsibility to focus on strength and conditioning outside of the dojo. It's your responsibility to focus on developing flexibility, mobility, and range of motion. You're not going to get that in the dojo. However, if you develop it outside the dojo, it will most definitely augment and further benefit your training. And so one of the things I remember when I was reading the Tao of Jeet Kune Do, it's a book by one of the things that Bruce Lee had published, I guess. And one of the things that he pointed out, and at the time when I read it, it didn't make sense to me, because when I was going to Tiger Shoman's karate, back when I was in New Jersey, they had a pretty solid system in place where this was one of the rare occasions in which going to the dojo would develop your strength, mobility, flexibility, striking, and grappling, and all of that. And they kind of built it into the whole thing. So you can go on strength training days, you can go on sparring days, you can go on grappling days, and like the idea was to go on each of these days so you can develop yourself. So, but in this case, but not every school is like that. And in fact, Bruce Lee was even himself saying in the Tao Jeet Kune Do, he says you need to spend time and energy and focus on strength and conditioning, separate from your training and on technique. Technique and movement has its own time And strength and conditioning has its own time. And so you gotta make sure that you give both its due focus, its due right. And so that way, if you want to be able to grow and develop and really dominate in whatever it is that you do, make sure that you are training. Not just in technique, not just in movement, not just in developing efficiencies, but also regularly challenging yourself. Make sure, and even in Jiu-Jitsu, one of the philosophies is to spar as much as you can. What's interesting is in Muay Thai, the culture of Muay Thai kickboxing, is that they don't have a belt system. In fact, your ranking is directly in relationship to how many fights you've been in and how many fights have you won. And so Muay Thai is a sport, but it's a sport that, they call it Muay Thai because it's the art of 8 limbs. You got your fists, 2 fists, you got your 2 feet, you got your knees, and you got your elbows. And so those are your 8 limbs. And your ability to use them and strike with them to maximum efficiency and effectiveness with minimum effort, I guess, if you apply the philosophy of Jiu-Jitsu, then you're going to be very well in that area too. The school that I trained in, the karate school, it was a hybrid system, and in that system, they taught you first karate, traditional karate and self-defense, and striking in that regard. Then they brought in Muay Thai kickboxing, with some boxing drills also put into it, American style. And then they brought in submission grappling. And so, but now it's like you get your black belt and you're essentially a well-rounded individual. Probably could defend yourself against any layman on the street. But being a black belt in MMA is almost the equivalent of being a blue belt in any one individual sport that somebody's focused in on. So that's one thing I'm learning now. So, and even yesterday, I was submitted by a white belt. That's it, guys. This is a long vlog, but I wanted to share that with you guys. I'm gonna get to work. I have a khutbah to prepare, and that'll probably be the next video I share.